All right, thank you everyone for coming. I'm very excited for this event. So just to give a little bit of background to anyone, I see a lot of people attending tonight are artists in the show, but to anyone who is just tuning in, Unprecedented Times, a socially distanced art project, is a project that started last fall in a response to the lockdown. And my idea was to have artists sign up and be placed randomly into different groups and then work on a collaborative art project in an Exquisite Corpse format. I left the rules open. So in a traditional Exquisite Corpse project, one artist will get a piece and not be able to see what the other artists have done and kind of continue drawing. But we kind of left this open. So there are many, many different interpretations. And we have over 110 artists in this show. So that's very exciting. There's a lot of really great projects here. So we're gonna go through as many as we can tonight. I have everyone's work in this presentation, but again, I wanna let everybody speak and say something. So if we don't finish tonight, we'll have a part two. But I had a few people sign up to speak, so we're going to kind of go into their work first. But before we get started, does anyone have any questions about the show in general for me?
I have a question, Angela. Is it possible to view the work online as a whole?
Yes, so not at the moment. The photos I'm showing tonight are just me taken from my iPhone when I installed the work. They're not professional photos by any means. We will have the show photographed and it will be put online. And I'll let you guys know as soon as that happens. But if you want to come see it in person, it is open. You just have to make an appointment with me. And I put my email in the chat, but I can put it in again if anyone didn't see it. And appointments can be anytime during the day, evenings, weekends. It just kind of depends on my schedule and your schedule. So I'm definitely flexible and accommodating. So I'd love for everyone to come see it.
Thank you.
Sure. And at this point, we don't have a defined end time. The event posting says April, but if nobody can, come for a reception in that time, we'll keep it open longer because I really want everyone to have some kind of a gathering together to celebrate this work. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with our first group. This is the Femme group of 6 artists who do a crit group together, and they decided to do this project as a group of 6 instead of a group of 3. So I have a short video I'm going to play. So thanks, Agathe, for making that video. So I have all of the projects that you guys made on different slides. So where would you like to start?
So, hi, Angela. Hi, everybody. Hi. I'm Deirdre Murphy, and one of the artists in the Femme Collective. So I thought I'd just kind of introduce our group and tell you just a little bit about us and then pass it off to the other artists. So the Femme Collective is a group of 6 Philadelphia women artists, and we got together about 2 years ago. And it's a crit group where every couple of months we would rotate through somebody's studio. We would, give pretty serious criticism, and a hefty dose of camaraderie, every couple of months. And it's just been incredible to go into the different studios, and every artist works in a different medium. And we also do professional development help and just uplift each other's careers. And so during COVID, we really had to shut down, and we didn't, obviously, we tried to Zoom. Some of us are teachers and we're on Zoom 24/7. And so it was just not, we didn't get to see each other as much. And so this Exquisite Corpse project was fabulous because it helped me, I think all of us, to really grow and to kind of lean into new territory, experiment, try different ways of working, and yet still feel connected. So we did have a constraint of rules, which was everybody had to work on a 22 by 30 two-dimensional surface. So it could be fabric, paper, what have you. But so we had a rigid size, and then we did have an order by which the work rotated, and every 2 to 3 weeks, the work would then go to the next artist. The only kind of thing was just keep it open enough that, that the next artist could then respond to. And that was kind of it. And it was just a wonderful way to connect. And I really thank you, Angela, for making this ability to connect and even grow deeper possible. So I should pass it on to one of the Femme Collective artists.
So I have each of your work on a separate slide. So if you want me to go to a certain piece, just let me know.
Okay. So yeah, this one I started out with that kind of, the shadow shapes of the trees and some little migratory bird patterns in the background, and then pass it on. And so then Ava Blitz, one of the artists in the group, responded to it, Emily Selvin, Agathe Bouton, and Diane Lockman. And so, it was a great way to let go of the ego and just let the process take over. So you can go on to the next slide.
Hi.
Diane, want to take it away? Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Diane, and I'm a geometric abstractionist. So I started with just the geometry, and then everybody filled in what they wanted to do with it. And I love doing this project because when we were shut down, I didn't go to my studio, and I was doing some photography at the time. I still am, but I was, really not working in my studio. So this was an opportunity to really just play with all kinds of materials on everybody else's work and problem solve. And I just felt really connected. By the time we finished this, I was really back in the art world in my mind and, physically. So I loved it. And it was great to see people. So we didn't see each other that much, but we talked and we did FaceTime or something, and dropped things off, picked things up. So I actually had something to do. So it was very, really inspiring.
That's great. I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slide.
I guess this is Ava Blitz. I guess I started this one. I started on a very thin rice paper with very elemental painting, and was very excited just to see how it developed in totally unforeseen ways. So I really enjoyed doing this project. It was really great.
Good. Here's another piece.
Yeah, so that's my piece with a lot of transformation at the end, but I'm a printmaker. So the base of the work, which is a red monotype with the evocation of a tree, like a print of a tree. So it's mostly inspired by a series of work I developed after I moved in the US in 2016, which is a series Habitat and Urban Matter. And yeah, so I just apply my monotype onto the paper and pass it along. And so So on this one, I think that might be the only one where the six of us, from the FAM collective worked. I think there's maybe Ava's piece and myself with my piece where all of us had the chance to work on it. And thanks, Angela. It was really great. It was a great opportunity, as Diane said, to just reconnect together and push us, to do something and to, and as Deirdre said, go out of our comfort zone and leave our ego on the side and be prepared and ready to give our baby to someone else, and no matter what will happen, to accept it. And it was great. I think we all can say that we're very happy with the results of the work. So thank you. It was great. Definitely
beautiful.
Great.
Yeah, it's hard to let go of your ego, I feel like. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. Thank you very much.
Here's the next piece. Did Emily start this piece?
Emily's done it. Unfortunately, she's not feeling well, so she can't join us tonight. I don't know if Deirdre can say something about it.
Sure. So Emily is a stained glass artist, and she also is an embroiderer and does these amazing, when you get to see this piece up close, the embroidery around the eye is just phenomenal. And so a lot of her work, is when she does her stained glass restoration, it was in churches and synagogues. And so she chose this fabulous textile and embroidered on it. And then it went to you, right, Agathe? And then you responded to it in this gorgeous way with more of the red, because you come from a textile background as well, right?
Yes, so I wanted to echo the red of the feather and the textile work, the embroidery, with adding more thread on the side and adding more red color. So I basically just highlight the jacquard. It's a type of fabrics, weaving fabrics, when you have a two-tone in the fabric. So I wanted to highlight the leaves and the flowers. To counterbalance a bit on the other side. So yes.
All right. This looks like Nazanin started.
Yeah, I'll talk about this one. Naz is not here, I think.
Okay.
I was working, trying to figure out what I would do with this, because it already had the geometry and it wasn't a lot of color, and I always put a lot of color in. So I had the lines that is Naz, the calligraphy, and Agathe had her squares, and then Deirdre did this beautiful bird's nest right in the middle. So I was very inspired by the bird's nest and the feeling of flight. And I found an old catalog of Victorian pictures and cut them out and made collage of birds flying through the thing. So I love this. This was my favorite. And then I also made little landscapes, little square landscapes with birds in them next to Agathe's beautiful squares. So I thought this was one of the best collaborations I've done anyway, and really had the spirit of the Exquisite Corpse.
Definitely. All right, so now we're going to move on to a different group, the Plant Intelligence Agency, Keith Hartwig and Natalie Hijinks. So I have a video to show. Natalie, do you want me to play that first?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know if Keith's going to be here anytime soon, so but Bettina is here.
Hold on one sec. I have some technical difficulties. All right, well, I seem to have lost that slide, but I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the video and share my screen again. Hold on one second. Okay. Emily, can you let me screen share? Thank you. Okay. All right, here we go. Awesome. All right, let me get back to that PowerPoint. All right. So go ahead.
Bettina,
Oh, sorry.
I didn't know if Bettina wanted to add anything. I know she started the project and had a lot more information than we could condense into that. If you wanted to add anything, I was at the tail end and sort of, added what I could. So
I think you did a pretty good job in the video of adding. Just at the time that the project started, there were all these fires going on. So that was what was on my mind. And the majority of the plants that were burning and that were causing the fires were these invasive grasses and mustards. And inside the resin, there's actually toxic chemicals that were released by the roots of the mustard, and that's what stops the other native species from being able to grow in the soil. So there was just a lot of connections going on, and then curing the resin, there was this risk that it would explode while it was curing, and they had these fire fuel inside of it, and then sent it over to Keefe, and Keefe did the tree of heaven, which we also have as an invasive species over here. And then Natalie just finished it off perfectly. So it was a lot of fun working together.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting after the fact when I had told Keefe what I'd done to the piece. He's like, "Oh, that's super toxic when you burn it." So luckily I had, a mask on, but that sort of added like another layer of just this danger and toxicity, much like the plants that Bettina used. So yeah, I felt like it came together really well.
Yeah, this project is beautiful, and it is the largest piece in the show. So I feel like it was also very ambitious. And Bettina, can you tell us where you're from?
I'm in Los Angeles. So I'm out in California in the center where all the fires were happening. We had the worst summer, just filled with smoke. Luckily, we were all wearing masks anyways, but it was just the only thing we could all think about was COVID and fires. So this project was a really fun relief.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions? Like, please feel free to chime in if you have any for Natalie and Bettina. Well, thank you so much for sharing this project with us.
Thank you.
All right, so the next one we have is from Andrea Wohl Keefe, Rebecca Kamen, and Jessica Joy London. And I know that Rebecca wanted to share something.
Right, I have a short PowerPoint.
Okay.
Oh, whoops. Sorry. This pandemic has been a really extraordinary experience for me personally. I have this image up here because I've been doing a lot of research getting ready for another exhibition this coming fall. And for me, the pandemic on some levels has seemed like an apocalypse. But when I looked at what that word meant, it was quite contrary to what one thinks about an apocalypse. It's really about a prophetic revelation. And that's what this project especially seemed like to me. I just moved to Philadelphia about 3 years ago. I was actually born and raised here. I didn't know the other two artists. So it was really a very interesting journey of discovery and revelation. I found this image because for me, the Exquisite Corpse has been an adventure. And like with any adventure, especially like this, getting on a train, you don't know where you're going a lot of times, but it's all about faith. And this one was interesting because it looks like dynamite. Luckily, we never got to the dynamite stage. But anyway, our project started with this particular piece of Andrea's, Tutu. And it was interesting because when she came over, she brought it over to my studio. I was fascinated because I wasn't familiar with her work, but it was literally painted on a waffle box. And I thought, oh, wow, what am I going to do with this? But what I did is, because a lot of the work that I do a lot of research on the brain. I had done a silkscreen print, and I was also recovering from brain surgery. So it seemed very appropriate that I would take on the brain. And so what you're seeing here is a silkscreen. It also has additional pieces to make it a little more three-dimensional that have been riveted on. And the rivets really work well combining my piece with Andrea's piece, because I wanted to make sure that you could see the connection between both our work. From there, the piece was taken over to Jessica's, and Jessica had just had a baby. So it was really amazing to me that she was able to work on this project while just having a baby. And she had come up with the idea of working with plastic bags because of just the atmospheric sensation that they create when you walk by them. And also keeping with this idea of a figure, these relate to body parts. And this is the piece in totality. So I love the fact that it has a kinetic element along with the other elements being very mixed media. And I found this quote, which I think is great. "We make castles in the sand, wonderful tapestries, and exquisite corpse, but is it meaningful?" And what I realized when I read this was written by a musician, the only ones that can answer that question, is it meaningful, is us as the artists and you as the viewer. So I want to thank all of you for this opportunity to be able to participate, and a very special thank you to Angela and Venture Cafe. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Oh, that's right. I'm still new to Zoom, so.
That was a good presentation. Thanks for sharing. All right, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Okay. So the next project we have is Robert Zurer, Susan Mania, and Kirsten Ashley. Did anyone want to talk about this?
Sure.
Go ahead.
This is kind of, I noticed, I've only seen one or two pictures. I think Kirsten is here. I didn't know if Susan.
Yep, I'm here.
Is Susan around? No.
I don't think Susan's gonna make it. I think she sent an email saying that she wasn't able to.
So, I was like really interested in making sure that it was more like the original idea of Exquisite Corpse, where the only thing that was seen were little points to connect to. And we had also kind of said that it would represent a figure, so head, torso, leg type thing, so that would hold it together. And I started it, and I put a piece of black paper over everything except, I don't think you can see my cursor, but yeah, except the places where the neck was and where possibly the shoulders might be. And then Susan kind of did her own thing there. I see a couple of places where it does connect. And, but I guess what I'm saying is that it is not really, in a certain way, collaboration, because I think had we all seen each other's work, it would have had a little more, the composition might have been a little more unified. That being said, I really think that the kind of curvy, flowing stuff is all interesting and common in a certain way. So it holds together in a certain way. And I really enjoyed doing this. I don't know how the like people like Miro and Tanguy and Masson, people like that who did these things, made them look so completely unified without seeing the pieces. But it was fun to do, I'll tell you. I have to say, I drove out and delivered it to Susan, and she mailed it to Kirsten. I don't know if there's anything else that Kirsten wants to say.
Sure. So some other people that were speaking were just talking about the process, and because it is during COVID, it's so different, this Exquisite Corpse project. And I found that to be the same. There's a lot of people, it seems like, that were in Philadelphia and were able to truly collaborate. But I enjoyed the mailing things off kind of aspect of it. I was the last person to get the piece, and we did cover up each piece except for the very, Robert did that top piece, and it was completely, I didn't see any of that when the paper was mailed to me. And then I just had the little bit of the bottom of Susan's portion to try to connect it. Something that I found that was really interesting is that I had something completely different in mind than what I ended up doing, just based on what completely going blind on what the other people had done, and just trying to, if you look, I was just trying to connect the shapes, and I was going to do something we had kind of decided in our planning process that it would be like an exquisite corpse, where there would be a head, a torso, and then, the lower half of the body, which was my end. So I did find it really interesting, but also in the spirit of the surrealists, I love the fact that it was more of an id process, where I had things that were thought out, and I just completely threw it out the window, and just, I had some basic ideas, but I just connected what the prior person had done for me to follow up, and just did it very intuitively. And I really had a lot of fun. And I did, even though we didn't get to see each other in person and things like that, and we mailed it, we still were emailing each other with our ideas. And I did feel that sense of collaboration, which for me, as a little bit of a control freak kind of artist, is interesting, because I typically, it's very hard for me to collaborate with people, because there's so much of that aspect of, you want your vision to be seen, but this, you kind of had to let that go. So I thought that was a really cool process, and I just had a really fantastic time doing it.
Glad to hear it. Thank you so much for telling us about this work. All right, we're going to move on now to Marlene Milstein, Margaret Pezalla-Granlund, and Kristen Osgood Lamelas.
Hi, this is Margaret. I'm the middle section of this project, and I hadn't seen the whole thing yet, so this is kind of amazing. I guess in some ways I worked a little bit opposite maybe of how, Kirsten, you said that you completely shifted your idea of what you planned to do once you started working on it. For me, I was not worried about kind of the, covering up the first artist and doing my section without seeing the first part. Just wasn't very practical with how my studio is set up. So I didn't try to keep the top part covered, but before I saw anything, I decided what I was going to use. And I decided to use this cover of a View magazine. I believe it's a 1944 issue with the George O'Keefe on the cover. And I chose that because I knew I was the center of the Exquisite Corpse, and that it was a torso, and that this was a way of sort of putting a literal torso in the middle, even if it's sideways and it's kind of abstracted bones. And did you add some of the other images that I sent, Angela, or not? Oops, I can't hear you.
Sorry, what did you say?
Did you add the other images that I sent or not?
I don't think I have any other images.
I can talk about this one. So
okay.
The magazine, I have been doing a bunch of stuff during quarantine made from scans of magazines that I made at the Library of Congress. I was interested in artist magazines and journals because they're a way of circulating ideas. I felt that this project was a way of kind of circulating and sharing ideas. And I like that magazines are ephemeral, but are now collected in museums and libraries, which is kind of like another step in the circulation. I have access to them during quarantine because they're available online. They've been digitized. And I like that idea of a magazine that's, nearly, what is it, like 80 years old or so now. And we can still access it. We can still, the ideas and the images in it still circulate. And this project was kind of a way of extending that circulation, right? Of taking an image that was on a magazine many, many years ago, putting it in a new context in a new work. And I love the octopus legs on it. I think they're pretty perfect. the little bit of orange in the left corner above the word view is actually a Post-it that was, or not a Post-it, probably like a paper marker that was in the journal because it was a bound journal. So I like that that turns into one of the tentacles.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well,
So
thank
it
you
was
so much.
very fun to participate.
Good. Thank you for that insight. And is anyone else from your group here tonight?
I don't think so, but I'm not positive.
All right, I'm going to move on. All right, so this project, Robert Reinhardt, Devin Victoria, and Suji Kenaganti. So just so I can explain what you're looking at, the picture on the left is the before pic, before it was sent to the last artist, Suji. And the picture on the right is the final product.
Okay, can everybody see me when I talk, or?
I can't see you. Can other people see her?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, the other two artists who I was with couldn't be here today, so they gave me just like a few notes. So I'm going to be looking at those and probably talking really fast because I know the time is limited. So I'm sorry for that. Bob started our piece and he said the hardest thing for him was not knowing what was going to be added or subtracted, but he is a watercolor artist. He does landscapes and he actually moves the page around in order to create that movement. So he was started by basically defining the composition, but still leaving some space for me and Suji. And then for me, the most challenging aspect as the second contributor was to still respect Bob's vision while bringing some of myself into the piece and leaving room for Suji. And we didn't actually know each other at all, and we didn't really communicate at all, except for through the art itself, which I think really made us consider it. And I usually work with pen and ink, so I also just stuck with what I knew. For me, what Bob did, the duality of like the red and the blue colors spoke to me, and I kind of wanted to use that to reflect a more universal duality represented with what I did in kind of like a good and evil thing, but to also challenge that and challenge those hard definitions. So the reference for what I did was actually like this really mysterious old Polaroid that I found when I was cleaning out like my childhood home. So it means something to me on that level. But I was kind of trying to call my like, because I do film stuff too, kind of doing like a hero's journey, like a myth thing while questioning that like good and bad and black and white and how those aren't really truly valid. And I kind of tried to do that with like positive and negative space too, also to leave room for Suji, who I saw had done a lot of colorful stuff on her site. So I was kind of expecting her to go for almost like a coloring of the blank space. But when Suji got it, she did a traditional paper making technique and turned it into a new blank piece of paper. She was trying to not be afraid to undergo death, rebirth type cycles, and especially since beginnings always inform endings. And in this case, well, she's a sculptor, so she felt more comfortable doing a material technique, and she wanted to leave it is some simplicity because through the sense of wonder as to what the piece actually was, and her personal work is about quiet details, which she thinks quiet work is more important sometimes to counter loud work. So what I'll say is that the final piece is definitely not what I think me and Bob were envisioning when we were working on it. But the things that I've gone through while like embracing this as the final work have really made me feel a lot of emotions, and I have to appreciate that it makes me feel something. And you know, when I gave the piece to Suji, it wasn't a finished artwork, so I was really reliant on her to finish the piece. So in that, I have to respect and accept everything that she chose to do. And honestly, I think what she did ended up being a better representation of the pandemic and of how it's felt to be alive in 2020 and all of like the perils and risks of connections this year than anything else that she really could have done. You know, it was truly unexpected, and this is an unprecedented times show. So I think it's really fitting. And I've kind of taken a lesson from it in like accepting and embracing changes that I can't control, and in like valuing things as they were, even when, you know, maybe you can't see it anymore or when it's been lost in a sense, and appreciating like the potential for beautiful things, like to still be beautiful with a fresh new start. And I think like the challenging of duality that I was going for, I think Suji was also going for in a sense with her thoughts on life and death, and that general duality, like the end being the beginning and the end, and taking something that I could maybe see as negative and seeing it as positive. So yeah, when I look at this gray piece of paper, I really feel things, and I feel like a lot of thoughts that I've maybe been feeling for kind of a year now, and it really helps me to focus them, you know, and to kind of appreciate them as valuable and precious in themselves. So I hope that when other people see this, some of that is reflected into them. Like, I hope it comes across. Okay. Thank you. Also, this is a good experience. So thanks.
Thank you so much, Devin. That was such a wonderful way to put this. I know this is like, you know, as an artist, it's a very jarring experience to have your work just turned into a piece of paper. But I think you're a great sport, as someone said in the chat. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your insights. And you got a lot of comments on this, so I just want to say, if you weren't checking the chat. Is anyone else here from this group who wants to say anything? All right, I'm going to move to the next. So this is Robert Reinhardt, Abigail Young, and Sandra Benheim. Sandra, are you here?
Yes. Okay. Hi. I had some computer issues at first, but finally the computer cooperated. I don't know if I can show you something, but I'll first speak about this. And I actually thought I had sent you, but I may not have. I have on my desktop 3 pieces. Robert Reinhardt participated in our group. Actually, he was the first person. He sent 3 very similar pieces, all with, they were 8 by 8 inch on watercolor paper, painted, kind of all landscape oriented. And his idea was that we would do more of a collaboration piece, but that we would do, we would complete 3 of them. And this way, each one of us, the 3 of us, would have a piece at the end. You know, even if this one, the one on exhibit, was to be sold or whatever, we wouldn't have to dicker over who was going to get that one piece. So we each completed, did some work on each one of 3. And we decided that this one would be the one to go in the exhibit. I have another one here that I decided that I would keep. I don't know if you can show it on the screen.
Did you want me to? I can stop sharing and you can share your screen if you want.
Well, yeah, or just if it can be in the webcam.
Mm-hmm.
If, yeah, is it possible? Let me see.
Yeah, we can see you.
Oh, you can see, okay, so you can see the piece. The color is not coming through the best, but you can see where Robert painted similar, the top half, essentially. And then I think he did have a little bit of paint on the bottom, but Abigail worked on pretty much the center and added some more marks and changed some of the color. And then this one, I collaged actually the lower half. And I don't know if you can make out, there's kind of, I titled this one Mirage because you do kind of see, it looks like kind of an oasis there. I don't know if you can make out the camel or not, but if you go back to the one in the exhibit, that one is purely a painted, a mixed media painted piece. And as I say, we approached it as a collaboration as opposed to covering up, you know, what the first person did and the second person, and then just blindly completing a piece and then being surprised at the end. I thought that Robert was going to be in attendance tonight so that he would be able to comment, but
Well, thank you so much.
I'm not sure what else.
Yeah, thank you for your insights. It's a beautiful piece.
Thank you.
All right, I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
go back to our PowerPoint and go to the next group. Maria, Carol, and Brooke. Is anyone, I mean, I don't want to call people out, only if you want to say something.
I am totally willing to talk a little bit. I don't know if I think I saw Brooke on here. I don't know if Maria's here. But it was funny because I asked Angela about the piece and she's like, it's very red. Yes, it's very red. I think that the thing for me about the project, there are a couple things that were really cool. One is I sort of knew, I think I followed Maria and Brooke on Instagram, so I sort of knew of them. So it was really cool to be connected with both of them. And the thing that was sort of easy for me was letting go. But the hardest thing for me, the challenge was honoring what the artist before me. So it started with Maria, and then I went, and then Brooke sort of finished it up. So what I got from Maria was what it feels like 2020. It was like a super woven metal ball that was like really small, pretty small, but heavy. So it was like just full of anxiety and weight. And so what I think is interesting in the final piece is that they're all sort of like accumulations and repetition. So Maria's was this repetition of wrapping and beading. Mine are sort of like the fish scaly things in the tail, I guess. And then Brooke's, which is attaching it to the wall, which are those sort of little loopy bits towards the wall. But the other thing I'll say that I really loved about it was I was just intuitive. I didn't overthink it. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just kind of wanted to have fun with it. And I think it feels fun. It feels, I don't know. Maria, did you say you're here, or Brooke? I don't know who that was.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I have some pictures if you want to see the piece that it started from.
Sure.
Evolved into this beautiful.
Let me give you sharing privileges. Let's see.
So we also didn't really follow any kind of rules. Like,
yeah, I loved that we didn't do that.
And Brooke didn't want to see it beforehand. I had taken a bunch of pictures before and after. So I picked it up for Maria and then I mailed it to Brooke, even though we were all pretty close in proximity to each other. And we didn't really talk about it, but that's okay. I think it worked.
It totally worked. I love how it came out.
Sorry, Maria, did you want to share something on your screen or just show us something?
Yeah, here, can I, it says host disabled participant. Oh, you're the co-host.
Okay, there you go.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I started, when I was doing this, it was during the time of the riots and all that, the COVID, all that kind of stuff. And I just sat there and listened to the news in the background and watched all this happening. And just for some reason, I couldn't not think of doing it like this. And then adding all these different little beads in there to show all the different people or I don't know. It just felt like what I needed to do. And I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it until it just felt like it was time to move on to Carol and let her do her magic and then Brooke to finish it up. And that's what it started at. That's the piece inside of what those two wonderful girls did. And that's it. I just wanted to show you where it started from.
It's probably pretty heavy too. Thanks, Maria. Because you can see it a little bit. I feel like you could probably see it in person. I think it's just hard to see on the image.
Yeah. It has a little weight, but it's not that heavy. All right, well, thanks, guys. So the next project we have is Patricia, Ava, and Andrea.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry, my video is not working. I think Patricia was going to say something.
Yeah, I thought she was. Is she here?
It was on mute, but Andrea, you started it, so it'd be great for you to.
Whoops, sorry.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Well, this is kind of like, I can't wait to see this in person, first of all. So I'll be making an appointment. It'd be fun to meet you guys there. So yeah, I started it and I made that black shape that's on the bottom. And there's little words that are stamped on it that says, I am all bog. And I was just sort of putting down on paper, and I chose a big piece of paper. I put the piece on the bottom as sort of a weight. And it was so fun to sort of just let this little piece of artwork go. It was meaningful to me. It related to the work I was doing in the studio. So I kind of pushed it out to be a little bigger, and then just sent it off into the void of two creative minds, and really like not knowing what was going to be happening. And if it was a pulped up piece of paper, I would have been fine with it. But so there was plenty of room to play, and I just loved the idea of just letting it go. And then like I said, I really need to see a closer up look, because I know Ava at the top has placed a piece of slate. So that's a heavy rock. I can't imagine how you installed it.
It was hard.
You did a good job. You did a good job.
Oh my God. Is Ava online?
I am, yeah.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, I'll, take it away, guys. I can't wait to see it, and I can't wait to see you guys in person at some point. But it looks amazing, and I just want to get up close and touch it. But I mean, as far as my work goes, it means nothing now. So like whatever it meant to me when I made it, it's become a part of something else, and sort of letting that sort of pop out into culture and romp around with other thoughts and cultural bits and pieces, to me is super exciting. So I don't even want to talk about my piece, because it's like now it is something else. It belongs to this collaborative effort that I thought was really a really interesting process, even though, we didn't talk much. We're just like, yeah, just do something. And here it goes. Now it's your turn to do something else. So go ahead. Patricia, tell us what you did next.
Okay.
How did you receive that?
What?
Yeah, what you must have thought with that big black piece.
Yeah, no, it was, first of all, thank you, Angela, for setting this whole project up, because it was so incredibly timely to be all locked down and wondering what people that we knew, friends, family, and then people that we didn't. And yet I've heard of Andrea and Ava. So it was quite lovely to all of a sudden be part of a group with them and collaborate in the sense of working from one's art. So it was a really beautiful project. And so, yes, I met in Fittler Square. I met Andrea, who handed it to me as she was on her bike. So that was kind of wonderful neighborhood send off. And when I unrolled it in my studio, it was another amazing thing, because I first loved the paper that she chose. I love the size, the surface. And then when I saw what she did, I was a bit surprised because I'm not as familiar with their work, but I loved it. And the black was so amazingly black and dense and very engaging. And I loved the positive negative exchange. So, and then I just very happily put it up on one of my studio walls to live with it for a while. And that was also nice that there was no rush or deadline, that we could just learn to live with it and figure out what we wanted to do. There was I think a couple of times we had a wonderful email exchange, and we actually chatted a bit about that. I don't know if you can see it, but what Andrea put in her very tiny text, which I also use text in my work. I write poetry and I use that quite a bit. So I also was very attracted to that, and I figured I have to live with I am all bog and think about what that actually means. And bog is related to moss, so that had something to do with my name and some landscape work I did. So I was playing off of that. And as my image, then I decided that as much as I really was so attracted to her very, very hard geometric shape and density of the black, I was going to take off on the opposite and create something much mistier and evocative in a completely different way. And to go up with her I Am All Bog, I took a line from one of my poems that says, where the past and present form a bridge, because I actually was feeling that I was forming a bridge to her work, and then eventually Ava was going to bridge it all together. And also that we were living in a moment in time with the pandemic, that we were confronted with the past and the present and the future in a very new kind of way. So I kind of took that line and put it there. And the image that I drew is something that I use a lot in my work. It's something that holds different layers of meaning for me, and relates to a lot of the work that I do with memory. And then I lived with it. I think the very pale green strip, I liked playing off of mostly the black and the grays, but then I was thinking again of Andrea's bog and what that means as moss and green underfoot. And so I added a couple of passages of very tinted greens. And then I was very happy to give Ava a call or email her and say, I think I'm done. And she came by and picked it up. And then, yeah, I agree with Andrea. I can't wait to see it in person. And that would be really a lovely ending to working together, to meet in the gallery together and see it.
It would be great, Patricia. Can I ask you, is that like a little piece of calligraphy right at the top of your of the composition? What is that?
That is Ava.
Oh, that's Ava's scribbling. Oh,
yeah.
wonderful.
I think we each put a piece of text in, is what I got.
Wonderful. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Ava, go ahead.
Well, I found it both fascinating and actually very difficult. This was I wanted to put something three-dimensional. And we have a really strong abstract geometric Andrea image, so bold. We have this fluid, sketchy narrative that Patricia did. And to bring it all together somehow with 3 dimensions was very difficult for me. And I changed it and changed it and changed it. And then finally, just a very simple approach was to put this piece of slate, which you guys miraculously put up on the wall because it is very heavy. I wanted, since everybody was doing words, I wanted to somehow do words, but I'm not much of a poet. So what I did is I cut out a word from a piece of a typed document, and just the letters, and so that's what those kind of scribbles are.
Wow.
And you can, maybe when you see it, you'll find out what the word says.
Awesome. Wow, it's so exciting to see this. You really nailed that shape. I just love how it picks up the negative shape in the void of the bottom, the black form.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tree trunk kind of anchoring everything in the middle there.
Yeah.
That's spectacular.
And I enjoyed the organic line of this piece of slate, and then the geometric line, and then somehow the corners felt like they needed something. So I put these little tiny sculptures in there.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. Oh yeah, so what's in the corners there?
They're little tiny plaster sculptures.
Oh my God, I can't even see them. Oh.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, let's get online and make a date to meet.
Okay.
And I will say this is the most difficult piece I've had to install in my entire career.
Oh God.
Thank you.
So tell me, what did you do? How did you put it up?
There's an adhesive hook on the back of the slate, and I very carefully pinned up the corners with clips, but I was freaking out the entire time.
Oh, no.
But Ava, how did you attach the slate to the paper?
It's not.
It's not. Okay.
No, it is. It's glued on.
Is?
Yeah.
Is it attached to the paper?
It's
glued on.
Yeah, very lightly glued on.
Wow.
All right.
Well,
thank you so
congratulations on that feat of putting it up.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you for sharing your insights on this piece. It's really beautiful. So now this is the last person who signed up to present. Obviously, we're going to go over tonight. So after Emily's going to talk, I'm going to try to quickly go through the rest of the work. I don't think we're going to finish, so there will be a part 2. And if you want to sign up for that, I'll let you know later. But I'm going to pass it over to Emily Garfield.
Hello. Thank you. I will try to be swift with this, and I think it won't be hard to be swift with it because the trajectory of this project, we organized ourselves via email. We emailed amongst each other. We said, okay, you know, we decided we weren't going to follow a traditional Exquisite Corpse necessarily. We were going to send each other our work and then, you know, and build on it and do it more like a mail art project than a Exquisite Corpse as in a figure project or adding on project. But I'm not sure if that's what happened, and we'll say. But yes, so I got the address from the next person. I was the first person. I got the address from the next person. We decided I could pick out some already made works, already printed works, and I provided a selection, and that's actually what's on the screen now. These are all my pieces, not necessarily intentionally, but provided a selection, shipped it off to apparently Colorado, despite thinking that this was mostly a Philadelphia related space. I'm in New York. I shipped it to Colorado. They shipped it to who knows where. And I never heard anything after that. This is, you know, the question is it on me? Is it on the group? But so I lived since shipping off my artwork to Colorado in this kind of liminal space, in this I have let go of my work, but I don't know when it will come back type of space. I was looking forward to this. I was looking forward to this event actually as an unveiling. So this is an interesting emotion to sit with. But in the interim, I've, you know, met people, especially through the Remo events that have been going on and everything, and broadened my scope of artists, thought about my work in different ways. And so already my work has transformed in my mind, even if I haven't seen it transformed by these specific artists. So I'm really interested to see what the final result will be. I don't know if only one of these pieces was chosen to be included or all of them were remixed into something. The three artists are very different. These are very kind of organic, networky artworks is what I make. I make imaginary maps in watercolor. The other artists do mathematical art, I think, Anduriel, and then very kind of very much more intense, much more dramatic work than I do, I think, is Heat. And so I'm very curious. Again, I'm still kind of living in this moment without this release of wondering what's going to be happening, wondering when I'm going to see that surprise of that familiar piece remixed into something else. So that's where I'm at.
I will say that there is a final piece. We just haven't received it yet. So you will have that moment.
I'm looking forward to that moment. I don't mind. And that's the other thing that I could have said. I'm not upset about living in this space. I'm just trying to kind of paint an emotional picture.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So now I'm just going to go through the rest of the pieces a little more quickly. I don't want to call anyone out. So if you would like to say something, feel free to unmute yourself and say something about your work. So this is Ava Wohl, Pedro Zagat, and Molly Fisher. If anyone is here from this group and wants to talk, let me know. All right. Rosemary Luckett, Olive Corey, and Wendy Sittner. Arlene Solomon, Marco Rathjen, and Kathleen Benton. Jim Biglin, Megan McGlynn, and Amy Rims. Dre, Lucy, and Jen. There's a lot of 2D work in this show. Very colorful too. Pam, Keenan, and Jeff. Bafisha, Linny, and Henkin. May, Melissa, and Scott. Karen, Mia, and Sean.
I'm here. I'll be quick because I know we're short on time, but I don't know if Karen's here. I know Sean left.
Okay.
Wow, I really enjoyed seeing what everybody else did, and it made me realize that the way I approached it was very specific, because I think I had in my mind this idea that I was going to work in the more traditional way. And so when I received the piece from Karen, it was uncovered, but I thought it had to be covered. And so I covered it up to just let myself have a little glimpse. And then I let it sit so I would forget what I had seen, because for some reason in my mind, it was important for me to work without having seen the previous person's work. And so I just responded I'm in the middle part, and I just responded intuitively after that to the lines and the colors. And then Sean added the bottom part. So we did not communicate with each other beyond the logistics of when are we sending things, when were we going to send something to the other person, and where was the package, and there were some delays in the mail and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's where we went with this. And it's interesting. It was a previous Exquisite Corpse that had some similar lines and someone sitting in that yogic position. So yeah, that's a short version of this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tom, Marie, and Ajax.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay.
This is a big surprise to see what happened to it. We didn't communicate at all, other than, again, mailing stuff. And at one point I thought it was completely lost in the mail, but I'm glad to see it completed. And I peeked for sure. I didn't even cover mine up or have, Tom didn't send it covered up. So it was a real challenge to incorporate different styles and mediums. Mine is the top part. He started in the middle, and it has gauze thread and trying to incorporate our different styles. Looks really great. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Maya, Florence, and Linny. Pedro, Dawn, and Kathleen. This is me and Alexis and Kristen. So I'll talk about this real quickly. My portion is like the top left black corner. And I kind of approached this as not really dividing the paper into 3 consecutive segments, but just kind of feeling like 1/3 of the piece. And I was first in this group. I don't know if Alexis and Kristen are here. But it was fun being first. It was it was very unexpected to see the final piece. So I did 2 projects. I was the first in one and the last in the other. And I think I enjoyed being the last person more. All right, Maggie, Melissa, and Christine. MHR Metal Fab, Leah and Sherry. These are bees hanging from the ceiling with like this little piece where they land. Aaron, Corey, and Angel. Colleen, Mark, and Virginia.
Very quickly, Colleen was first, Mark was second, I was last, and I'll only say that we delivered this in October, and looking at those horns, it was a strangely prescient piece of Jake Angeli at the Capitol insurrection. We didn't intend that.
Yeah, that wasn't the intent, obviously. Thinking ahead, but yeah.
Thank you. All right, so this is two pieces. The top part, there's like 6 pages of writing. It's a writing piece. It's the only writing piece in the show, but I thought it was important to include because Exquisite Corpse actually started off as a writing game. So we have Miguel, April, and Michael, and I don't believe any of them are here tonight. And then this piano piece is David, Haley, Johnny, Calder, Beatrix, and Otis. So if anyone is here from that group, we'd love to hear from you. It's another close-up pic of that. Oops. All right, so this is another project that I worked on with Taryn and Rachel. Rachel, are you still here? Did you want to say anything?
Hi, I am still here.
Okay.
I guess I just love how this came out so much. I was the second person in the group. I received Taryn's piece, which is the ceramic sort of floral tongue piece in the mail from London, and I wasn't really that familiar with Taryn's work, but I got so excited when I saw this. I loved it so much, and I was kind of worried because I didn't want to. I don't know. It just seemed like perfect, and I don't know. I didn't want to like mess it up in any way. So I made my piece, the second part, which is the sort of soft sculptural part you guys can see in the front there. And I don't know. I thought about the colors, and I think the piece that Taryn sent me was from like a series called like, The Garden of Earthly Delights. And for me, I just went on with like the garden part of that, which is kind of what I do generally. But and then I sent off these 2 pieces to Angela, and she did this wonderful thing.
Well, I will say that Rachel, when she mailed it to me, she sent me an email and was like, hey, this is what I was thinking. And she had like a base for this piece, and she had an arrangement, and I was like, okay, cool. But it took so long for the mail to get to me because it was right over Christmas time that when I finally received it and I opened the box, I had kind of forgotten about what her email said. So I just got really excited. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I made this thing, and then I sent it to Rachel, and she was like, oh, that wasn't really what I was thinking. But the thing is, I cast everything in resin, so it's like stuck together. So this is it.
Well, no. So, I mean, I think that, right. So there was like, there was a base, but I really only meant it to be like, here's an idea. I'm not sure, like go with this if you want, but if not, so I just wanted to make sure you knew like, hey, you can do whatever with my part. It doesn't, you can cut it up. You can, that's all I kind of wanted to say. But
cool.
I love
it. I'm glad you're a good sport, and this is what came out. So yeah.
It's fabulous.
It was fun. Thank you. All right. Christian Perez, Deirdre Krieger, and Suzanne Kahn. Do any of you want to talk about this?
I can say it was a really fun project, and it pushed me out of my whatever I do in boundaries. What is that phrase? But I really liked how Christian used wires to do things like electrical, like old cables, and he like had collections of things around like that he was going to use for a future project. And that got me thinking about, because I usually work with water bottles, a lot of the time. So it was fun to like look around the house and think about other materials. So cables and connecting the head to the body using power outlet was fun.
Cool. All right. Gabriella, Tyler, and Joyce. So I don't have a good photo from the install. So this is an in-process shot from Joyce. And this is a really amazing piece by Christine, Chris, and Jake.
I'll say something very briefly here.
Sure.
I got two things in the mail. I got a really beautifully 3D printed resin skull, and then I got, so this very concrete object, and then I got a very abstract wooden constellation object with that red plexiglass disc, and sat with them for a really long time because I had no idea what to do with them, and then started playing with these other forms and found a way to try to incorporate it all together, and touching on language, and there was talk about exploring ideas of binaries and kind of the flaws inherent to binaries. And so cracking open these two binaries, the black and the white on the bottom, and thinking about structure and power and politics and everything that's in the news around, you know, just a lot of, just a lot, everything, right? You know, the whole year, but specifically racial justice and white supremacy and kind of these big topics, and thinking about how to build forms that start to explore those ideas visually, right? You know, as we're wrestling with them conceptually, how do we start to, you know, give them form so that we can undo them? And so kind of playing with that as my starting point, but I obviously didn't want to bring all that heaviness to the other two artists' work. And so communicated with them and just kind of checked in about what their intentions were and what they wanted or hoped for in their work. And they were really open, and I kind of felt like I had permission to kind of move into some of those topics. So it was a really wonderful process. Thanks, Angela, for putting it all together, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it was great.
Glad to hear that. Thank you. This piece turned out wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh, and here's some close-ups. All right, and this piece by Bonnie McAllister, Haley Crawford, and Marjorie Amder.
Hi, I'm Bonnie. I'm not even sure what I'm looking at because I haven't seen the finished piece. Our group didn't have a lot of communication. So I can tell you what I started with. I started with all natural materials that I had spun in my studio at 40th Street Air at Penn, where I'm a resident. I used some glass vessels that I felted. Not sure, I don't really see them. I found out that one or more was broken in the process. So it's exploratory for me to see what's happening here. It looks nothing like what I had started with. And I actually hand dyed some textiles with natural materials in my studio. I don't really, I'm not really sure what I'm looking at, but maybe the other artists could clue us in.
Yeah, if anyone else from this group wants to say anything.
Hi, I'm Marjorie, and I was the last person to put this all together. And it was a piece that evolved, and there's a tapestry at the lower corner that came from Haley, and I received that as a square tapestry, and I received 3 bowls from Bonnie that were covered with beautiful felt material. However, it wasn't adhered well to the glass pieces, so that it started to pull away. And as that started to do that, I thought that they would become kind of, this is I had never worked with vessels in my own work. So in a way, this piece is an homage to the vessel, because there's one vessel that's in the middle of right in the middle of the piece that you can see it's a bowl, and below on the floor, there's another large vessel that's also celebrated by what it's surrounded by. And then on the flip side, the third vessel is tucked away. So kind of felt like a horn of plenty of sorts. That was kind of how it came together. And I thought it was kind of ritualistic, celebratory piece.
Thank you, Marjorie. And then this is the last piece we have, Denise, Brianna, and Jessica. And we have a few minutes left, so I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of the install shots for you. These are not professional photos, but this is what the show looks like. That's my daughter. And there it is. So thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for participating in this project. We will do some more engagement, hopefully in person. We'll just kind of see how that plays out over time. And yeah, thank you all for coming. This was really fun.